Are you trying your hardest to keep up with modern poker concepts? Do you struggle to find the time to even start to learn GTO? Perhaps you're new to poker, or maybe you learned to play poker back when GTO was just a badass car. Charts and solvers are intimidating, and concepts like minimal defense frequency go in one ear and out the other. It's overwhelming. But there's hope for you, and there's hope for me and other old man coffees out there as well. Because here's the good news. You don't need to learn everything. In poker, just like in life, the 80-20 rule applies. About 20% of GTO concepts drive 80% of your results. So in this video, I'm going to show you the 5 concepts that matter most and how you can start winning more without learning every nuanced GTO concept. Roll intro. The Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule, states that roughly 80% of outcomes come from 20% of the inputs. It's a tool used to identify the vital few inputs that drive the majority of results. Here are some real-world examples. In business, 80% of a company's results are typically driven by just 20% of the employees. In customer service, 80% of complaints typically come from 20% of the issues. And in sales, 80% of sales are generated from 20% of the customer base. This applies to poker as well. That means we want to focus on the critical 20% of effort that yields 80% of the desired results, rather than focusing equally on all tasks. It means we don't need to focus on every GTO concept to recognize the vast majority of the benefits. We just need to focus on the highest impact fundamentals. So instead of trying to memorize everything, let's focus on the 5 GTO concepts that give you the biggest edge. Concept number 1, position is everything. If you only take one thing from this video, make it this. Position is the most important advantage in poker. Why? Because acting last gives you more information, more control, and more profitable decision making. Here it is, maybe the simplest rule in all of poker. Play tight in early position and looser in late position. From early position, stick to strong hands and avoid marginal spots. From late positions, open wider and apply pressure. Most losing players ignore this. They play too many hands in early position and not enough hands in late position. Let's look at a range chart for under the gun and a range chart for the button, assuming a 50 big blind tournament stack average. As you can see, the number of hands you open with is much more narrow under the gun and much wider when on the button. I think many of us would find it interesting to see that we should mostly fold Queen-Jack offsuit when under the gun, but raise 10-8 offsuit when on the button. That's a pretty big discrepancy, and one that many of us, recs, beginners, and OMCs are likely not aware of. Again, we don't need to memorize charts to get better, but we do have to understand, generally, what to open with. So concept number 1 is a simple fix. The later your position, the more hands you can play. That alone will improve your results dramatically. Concept number 2, play ranges, not hands. This is the shift we talked about in my last video. Old school thinking is, what do I have? Modern thinking is, what does my range look like? When we raise preflop, we don't just have one hand. We have a range of hands. And our decisions should be based on how our range interacts with the board, not just the specific cards in our hand. There is a simple shortcut. On high card boards like Ace-King-X, these favor the raiser and we should bet more. On connected boards like 8-7-6, these favor the caller and we should check more often. Again, we don't need a solver to make noticeable improvements in this area of our game. We just need to recognize which player the board favors, the raiser or the caller. You can find the video here that I made on playing your range. If you find that you are being bullied by younger, better players, it's probably worth watching this episode to see what I have learned. But at the end of the day, if you're always checking when you miss and you're always betting when you hit, then it's time to reevaluate your game. Concept number 3, aggression wins. Passive poker is losing poker. Most rec players call too much, don't bluff enough, and miss opportunities to apply pressure. GTO poker is built on aggression. That means raising instead of calling, betting instead of checking, and putting opponents in tough spots. Here's a simple rule. When in doubt, lean toward aggression, not passivity. Now that doesn't mean being reckless. If you're at a table of young, aggressive players, then sometimes it makes more sense for us to ease back on the aggression. Maybe we tighten up, but when we do hit a flop, then it's time to ramp up the aggression. Let's look at an example of putting someone in the blender by being aggressive. And let's use a 1-3 cash game example. You're on the button with an effective stack of $300, and you have 8 of spades, 7 of spades. A tight older player, a classic OMC villain, raises to 12 from middle position. You call on the button, and the blinds fold, and the pot is now $27. The flop comes king of diamonds, 9 of spades, 6 of spades. The villain bets 15. You have a flush draw, an open-ended straight draw, and massive equity. Instead of just calling, you raise to $50. Now we've created pressure. The villain's range has hands like ace-king off, queen-jack, aces, queens, jacks. These hands feel strong, but right now they're hating life. Put yourself in their shoes. Wouldn't you hate this? Because your raise says sets, 2 pair, big combo draws, sometimes pure bluffs. They're suddenly forced to ask, am I actually ahead? That's discomfort. That's pressure. That's where we use aggression to make money. Let's say our OMC villain manages to talk himself into a call, and the turn is a 2 of hearts. Our villain checks. This is where many players give up, but not us. Instead, you bet $85. Now top pair feels absolutely horrible. Even aces start sweating. King-queen is definitely thinking about folding. You are forcing the villain to defend under pressure, not play comfortably. So if you're choosing between calling or raising, all things being equal, raising is almost always the preferred play, especially when you are in position. See concept number 1. Concept number 4, bet small more often. Modern poker loves small bets. This is one of the biggest mindset shifts for OMC players, and I'm going to spend a good bit of time on this concept as this is a precursor to a full episode coming up on bet sizing. Most of us were taught, if I have a strong hand, I should bet big. That was old school poker, and sometimes it's still true, but modern GTO says something very different. Small bets very often, especially on the flop. This feels weird at first because you think, why would I bet small when I'm strong? But the answer is simple. Poker isn't just about your hand, it's about your range. Let's start with old school thinking. You raise pre-flop with ace of spades, king of clubs, and the flop comes ace of diamonds, king of hearts, 4 of spades. You think, I crushed this flop. I need to bet big. So you fire 75% pot. Sounds logical. But here's the problem. What worse hands actually call? Maybe ace-queen? Maybe ace-jack, maybe some pocket pairs, but a lot of weaker hands just fold. You win, but you maybe didn't win the maximum. Now let's look at modern GTO thinking by zooming out a little bit. You raised pre-flop. That means your range includes aces, kings, queens, jacks, ace-king, ace-queen, ace-jack, and suited broadways. This board, ace-king-4, is amazing for your range. Your opponent, not so much, especially if they called from the big blind. They have more junk, weak-suited hands, small pairs, weaker ace-x. This board heavily favors you. That means you can bet small with a lot of hands, not just monsters. So let's look at why small bets work. 1, you keep worse hands in. If you bet huge, hands like queen-jack, 8-8, 5-5, weak ace-x often fold. If you bet small, they call much more often. That means more value and more mistakes from them. 2, you deny equity cheaply. Let's say villain has queen of spades, jack of spades. They missed, but they still have live cards. If you check, they get to realize equity for free. That's dangerous. If you bet small, you force them to pay. Even if they fold, you accomplish something. 3, you apply pressure to wide ranges when the villain defends pre-flop. Their range is wide with a lot of weak hands. A small bet attacks that weakness. You're basically saying, I have all the strong hands. What are you going to do about it? And most of the time they fold. Now let's talk about the actual bet size. This is usually 25 to 33% pot. Very simple. 100 in the pot, bet 25 to 33. That's it. Nothing fancy, no solver wizardry, just disciplined pressure. Now here's the GTO shortcut for bet sizing. With high card dry boards, ace-king-4, ace-queen-3, king-7-2, as the aggressor, bet small often. With connected wet boards, 9-8-7, 8-7-6, 9-7-8, check more often. So here's the one-line rule. Good board for my range equals small bet. That one rule alone will improve most low-stakes players immediately. Now here's the biggest OMC mistake. With a strong hand, they bet big, and with a weak hand, they check. That becomes incredibly predictable. Good players destroy predictable players. Modern poker says sometimes strong hands bet small, and sometimes weak hands bet small too. Now your strategy becomes much more difficult to exploit. Here's the final takeaway on bet sizing. You don't need perfect balance, solver outputs, or 9 different bet sizes. You need small bets on good boards. That's it. That's a huge leap forward. You don't win more by betting bigger, you win more by betting smarter. Concept number 5. Stop playing too many hands. This, right here, is the biggest OMC leak. I thought about making a video about it, but it would go something like this. Welcome to GTO for OMC. Stop playing too many hands. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Honestly, it is that easy to embrace an important tenet of GTO poker. I was in a live tournament just a few days ago, and the guy next to me was playing about 70% of his hands. Limp, fold, limp, call, limp, fold. He was knocked out in level 3, and I honestly was surprised he lasted that long. It might be the biggest leak, but it is also the easiest leak to fix. Most losing players limp too much, call too much, and play marginal hands. Let's look at an example. You're in middle position. You look down at King 9 offsuit. You don't want to raise, but you don't want to fold, so you call. That's where the problem starts, because now you're out of position with a likely dominated hand, and now you're in a tough spot. Here's the simple rule. If it's not strong enough to raise, it's usually a fold. Play fewer hands, make better decisions, win more. It's that simple. So now let's talk about how we incorporate the 80-20 rule into our game. Here's your simple OMC game plan. Before the flop, play tighter in early position. Avoid limping, raise or fold. On the flop, ask 2 questions. Who has range advantage? And 2, should I bet small or check? And the overall mindset should be more aggressive. Play fewer hands and focus on position. That's it. You don't need perfect strategy. You need consistent fundamentals. Now here's my final thought. Most players think they're losing because they don't understand GTO concepts. But that's not the problem. The problem is they're ignoring the basics, the fundamentals that matter most. If you master just these 5 concepts, position, ranges, aggression, small bet sizing, and hand selection, you'll be ahead of the vast majority of players in your games. So we're at the point in my videos where I share my recent results and my bankroll progress. As a reminder, I started with a 2026 bankroll of $5,000. I'm concentrating on smaller online buy-ins as I start the year off, and saving my bankroll for larger on-site tournaments, such as the WSOP circuit event in Cherokee, North Carolina this past February, and now in May, as well as a trip to Vegas in June for the series. So stay tuned for upcoming travel vlogs highlighting those trips. Episode 3 is a wrap. If you're an old man coffee player like me, trying to simplify modern poker, you don't need to study everything. Just focus on the 20% that drives 80% of the results, and build from there. In the next episode, we're going to continue the travel vlog series with an episode from the February Cherokee circuit stop. If you watched my first travel vlog, days 1 and 2 didn't go my way, but day 3, well, day 3 was much better. Much better. So be sure and tune in. Also be on the lookout for a future episode where we go a level deeper on bet sizing. If that sounds like the type of poker journey you want to be on, subscribe and join me, because we're learning the modern game together.